Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the latest in the Urban Living webinar series. Today, we are going to be talking about technology. It's an enormous subject and we've got a lot to cover. Now, today's session is sponsored by CommScope. And before we kick off, Juan from CommScope is just going to tell us a little bit about the company. Over to you, Juan.
Hey, thank you very much. Delighted to be sponsoring today's session. What's on the horizon for technology? Vast subject, and it's also all about what's on the horizon for human beings, and that's something we take seriously within CommScope. CommScope are a global provider of network solutions, very big in the fiber and in the 5G world, but we also have a Ruckus brand, which many of you will know within the hospitality industry and the MDU industry, delivering Wi-Fi and IoT analytical solutions within the hospitality industry. I think that's enough from me, and we'll hand over to our esteemed panel.
Thanks very much, Juan. So this webinar series are a precursor to a new event which we are launching later this year in July at Tobacco Dock, London, and it's called the Urban Living Festival. It's focusing on how various hospitality and real estate asset classes are converging. And the content's all going to be themed around 3 stages: stay, live and work. If you'd like to find out more, then there's information in the chat. You can also find CommScope's details in the chat as well. There's going to be lots of links and lots of info coming at you in the chat today, so make sure you keep an eye on that. So we are going to have roughly a 45-minute panel discussion today, followed by 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions for our panelists, then please submit them using either the Q&A or the chat function in Zoom. Everybody who's registered for the session will receive a recording in the next couple of days via email. And if you're not one of our panelists, if you could please keep yourself muted, that would be great and will help the session run smoothly. My name's George Sell. I'm Editor-in-Chief here at International Hospitality Media, and we are a publisher of B2B online news websites for the hospitality industry, as well as an event organizer. Now, this entire webinar series has been sponsored by Harmonics. Giles from Res is on the panel today, but we're just going to see a short video to find out more about Res.
Harmonics is 100% dedicated to service departments and co-living, bringing together all the tools you need to drive performance and deliver a great guest experience. From channel management and direct bookings to finance, housekeeping, maintenance and customer journey automation, whether centrally or on the move, the platform consolidates all information into one system, saving you time, improving communication and maximising business performance.
And if you'd like to find out more about Harmonics, then you can see the links there in the chat. So before we meet our panelists, I just wanted to show a couple of slides to give the discussion some context. Now, we've covered technology-related stories on our websites across various different asset classes, hotels, service departments, build to rent and more. And it's becoming increasingly prevalent, as you can see, lots of different aspects of it. So we've got an electronics manufacturer and a build-to-rent operator teaming up for Internet of Things enabled appliances, for example, operators launching mobile apps. An interesting one on the top row there is Kayak, the travel aggregator, actually opening its own hotel. And on the next slide, another theme that's quite prevalent is how a lot of investment money is heading towards technology, whether it's in operating companies who are tech enabled and describe themselves as tech companies first and operators second, or whether it's tech providers. There's a lot of investment coming into the sector. So we've got a fantastic panel to discuss the future of technology here. I'm going to ask the gents all to introduce themselves, and we'll go from left to right on the slide here. So Stuart, if you'd like to kick off, welcome to you.
Thank you, George. My name's Stuart Duncan. I'm the founder of SmartLock Europe, which is quite obvious what we do. We import and distribute a wide range of smart locks. And on the other side of it, we've got Apartrooms, which is a serviced apartment brand, which we set up about 18 months ago.
Thanks, Stuart. Jim, welcome.
Hi, yes, hi everybody. Jim Dolan, Managing Director in our technology practice in our privately owned enterprise section of the business. I've been consulting since '97, worked with a lot of hospitality providers and also companies that create software and solutions for hospitality. And in my sort of day job, I do a lot of IT strategy, software selection, and then delivery and assurance to programs.
Thanks, Jim. Lennert, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Lennert Jong. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Citizenm Hotels. We are owner-operator. We have 21 hotels across the globe that we own and operate, and more coming in the next couple of years.
Thanks, Philip. Welcome.
Yes, hi, Philip Laukart, Managing Director of WeWash, which is a service brand and an innovation spin-off of the internationally operating BSH Group. BSH is the company behind famous appliance brands like Bosch, Siemens, Neff, or Gaggenau, and we offer solutions, digital solutions for sharing laundry facilities, so sharing washing machines and dryers.
Thanks, Philip. And finally, Giles.
Hi, I'm Giles from Harmonics. We provide software for promoting, running, and operating innovative living, both short and long stay residential mixed portfolios. I've worked with actively managed residential and service departments and co-living operators for the last 10 years. And prior to that, I did a stint of actually building and operating service departments and build to rent residential prior to that, and look forward to having a chat with you guys today.
Thank you, Giles. You'll be able to see the LinkedIn profiles of all our panelists in the chat, so if you'd like to continue the conversation with them after the session, then please do so. So I'd like to start by asking, to what extent and in what areas has the pandemic accelerated the adoption of technology in hospitality and real estate? Jim, perhaps you could kick us off with that one.
Yeah, I think there's a few factors at play here. Certainly, the conversation I'm having with my clients is that they're realizing they can't ignore technology investment anymore. I think that's one factor. I think some people are using what's seen as this hiatus as an option to get ahead. So those that are cash rich, those that have got the reserves, are actually now starting to invest in the technology strategically. I'm certainly seeing a level of demand more than ever, particularly in real estate, where typically my experience has been there's a lot of spreadsheets going around, but given that there's so much uncertainty in the market at the moment, I think people are looking to more sort of off-the-shelf software to do the bare bones of the sort of system of record stuff, and then using the Excel spreadsheets to model, these very volatile scenarios that sort of change at a moment's notice. And then I think, also, things like cloud software as a service, some of the tech startups, the prevalence of some of the technology that IoT or Internet of Things is doing is really sort of starting to help people to manage the properties and the customer relationship a lot better. So I think the pandemic's accelerated all of these to varying degrees across various different organisations. But yes, certainly compared to 2 years ago, technology seems to be on the spend agenda for the majority of clients that I'm talking to.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jim. Lennert, Citizenm has always been a fairly forward-thinking company when it comes to technology, but has the last year or so made you reevaluate your approach to technology, maybe accelerate some of the things you were doing?
Yeah, I think actually we've made a quantum leap. We've been really busy, and I think coming back to what Jim just said, people that here are talking to are these people that are still engaging in conversations. And I think that to that extent, the hospitality industry is split between companies that have just put their head in the ground and are waking up when business comes back, and companies that are well, trying to come out better than they were before. And yeah, we've certainly taken the time, and we've also heard about other companies that have taken the downtime to indeed, kill the Google Sheets, put everything in Power BI. But at the same time, I think the way that Uber has transformed how you take a taxi, we've taken the time to transform the hotel experience. Just like Uber, fully contactless, or actually we like to call it frictionless, because that's what it really is. End to end, from the booking to the post stay, and including turning stones that were unturned or not to be turned in the past, like opt-in housekeeping. Some brands have tried it in the past, but the pandemic for us has also made us realize that we need to be more efficient with the resources, and think about optimizing cost elements in our P&L by the use of technology.
And has the emphasis been more on guest-facing technologies or back-of-house operational tech?
A bit of both. We fast-forwarded some tracks that we were already, let's say, aiming at, but now we couldn't really, and we had all the time actually to deal with it. And so on the back end, I would say customer technology. You see the rise of the CDPs in hospitality space, customer data platforms. So really centralizing customer data rather than just transactional systems that are kind of trying to figure out who the customer is. But the majority of our time went into the customer experience side of things, the screens that people touch. We've updated all of our digital touch points, we've added touch points, and we added a lot of new functionality for our guests.
Great, thanks, Lennert. Giles, you have clients across a variety of different sectors, service departments, co-living, build to rent, and so on. In your experience, which sectors or asset classes are leading the way with tech adoption, and which have got some catching up to do?
It's really interesting, actually. I don't think any of them are being particularly slow. I think there's a huge amount of investment going into the guest experience in hotels, and with that, the frictionless sort of check-in with kiosks, and actually making that whole arrival and moving through the properties really easy. And then actually the enjoyment of your rooms to be very easy with a lot of the sort of internet things, and being able to have Netflix and your own selection of music on in the rooms that you're in, and sort of bringing that sort of capability to enjoy the space as you want to enjoy it in there. But we're seeing some fantastic sort of innovation in long stay, in sort of identification and knowing your customers. So actually allowing the sort of easy check-in that you see in hotels and service departments to actually start to happen in build to rent and long stay. So you can apply online and actually authenticate who's staying and do a longer lease in build to rent, which would have normally have been a very sort of manual backwards and forwards process that is done by letting agents or similarly. And actually, I think that's sort of a sign of the brand of people like Moda Living or the Collective, where that it's about a relationship with the brand rather than just the building, and bringing the hospitality elements into that. And so actually, they're all charging ahead in different ways. But I think it's emerging as well to bring hospitality across short and long stay. Which is really starting to happen as well.
Thanks, Giles. Stuart, presumably you supply lots of different sectors as well. I mean, everybody needs a way to open and close doors. Are you seeing any particular sector being more proactive?
Yeah, mainly the service department sector. That's been the strongest one. I mean, the trend really seems to have moved towards contactless check-in, and in particular eliminating the meet and greet, which obviously with the pandemic has accelerated that whole concept. And it's also, I think, operators are realizing you know, they can save a lot of money if they don't have someone sitting at a check-in desk waiting for guests to turn up at all hours. And certainly the feedback that we're getting is that guests really like the not having to meet someone there. They don't want to have the tour of the property, whether it's a hotel room or a serviced apartment or whatever type of accommodation. They just want to get there and kind of do their own thing. As long as they've got the Wi-Fi code, that's all that seems to, you know, to matter to them. So, and the other kind of big thing that what we're seeing now compared to 3-4 years ago is software integration with the locks and the PMS stroke channel managers. I really fought hard for many years trying to get people like Giles to integrate with our software. And it was always a struggle with lots of different channel managers, but now we're finding channel managers are coming to us and they realize that integrating the lock technology with the whole booking process to make it seamless is kind of really important. And I think that whole side of it will really grow. Because the big challenge is a lot of smaller operators have been closed, so they haven't had the budget to invest in these technologies, and you do feel like they're perhaps going to get left behind. So
we'll move on to integration later, because I think it's an absolutely key piece of this, especially for hospitality where there are so many different systems doing so many different things. So we'll move on to that in a bit. With your operator's hat on, Stuart, do you think this overwhelming desire for contactless entry and not meeting people is permanent, or do you think it will go back to how it was before to some extent?
Well, certainly, I mean, from what we're seeing with Apartrooms, I mean, it's here to stay. There's just no question. I mean, our whole business model is based around contactless. We never had a reception from the outset, but I know once customers have invested in the technology, I don't think they'll ever go back to meeting guests there unless it's a specific guest request that they would want to meet, you know, meet the host there. So I know I definitely think it's here to stay. The conveniences just completely outweigh the advantages of having to, you know, meet the host there. Yeah.
Lennert, obviously, you've got similar systems in place at Citizenm, but do you think the luxury hotel sector, the more experiential hotel sector, do you think they're going to struggle to strike the right balance between you know, the human touch and the right level of technology?
They probably will, but they shouldn't. I'm of the opinion that you know, digital is not there to replace the human component, and you can do that, right? In a train station, you can buy a train ticket without talking to a human, but in a place where you'll be welcoming people for a few days, it is of our belief, and I think also in the luxury setting, that you can have the human be human and the technology do the technology piece, right? That's why you go into an Apple store, you know, one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and it's flooded by genuine human beings. That's part of their experience, and everybody can make their own decision. You can also check into a hotel completely without seeing anyone, and that can be part of somebody's brand. But I think if I would be the owner of a luxury hotel, I would take frustration away. I mean, I've stayed in hotels where you paid 350 euros a night, you know, fancy design place, and you end up 45 minutes in a queue for check-in. Yeah, I don't understand that. I'm paying a lot of money not to be in a queue, and yeah, not because I'm spoiled, but I don't have to wait in line for a video store anymore to rent my videos. It's available online on Netflix. The same for my songs. And you know, why is your hotel not available in an app so I can control my own process? So I think that's what people nowadays consider luxury, getting control over a process. But just like that, at Citizenm, we will never get rid of our ambassadors. And I remember in 2008, I was standing in a technology forum advocating our kiosks before we opened, and people, was a whole room of CIOs, and they thought it was a disgrace for hospitality that we were doing self-check-in at Citizenm. And one of the things that got rated highest was our service. And we operate our hotels with less FTEs than anybody else. How is that possible? And that's when you have the human do the human part and the technology do the transactional part. That's when you get the best out of people on both sides. And so I think there's an opportunity for luxury to really do something.
Yeah. Thanks, Lennert. So who is in the driving seat regarding this accelerated adoption of technology? Is it operators looking to become more efficient? Is it owners or investors looking for a better return, or is it guests who are becoming increasingly tech savvy? Philip, do you want to pick up on that one?
Well, for us, it's definitely the operators who are keen to streamline their processes, you know, get the process costs down, and especially, as Lennert said before, get also the opportunity to concentrate what really is important, right? The touch points, the consumer touch points that really differentiate your brand. So from our perspective, it's definitely the operators. And for the users of our services, we provide guests the opportunity to check if a laundry appliance is available to them, book it, and get notifications as soon as their laundry is done in a shared facility. Obviously also pay cashless. That is a surprising aspect. But I guess everybody who has done laundry, or most of us, for most of us, it's not an enjoyable thing. So I would assume that most operators don't see laundry as one of their core competencies, where they see a valuable touch point with their guests or consumer, and therefore are happy to source that out, basically.
Thanks, Philip. Jim, please go ahead.
Yeah, can I comment on that one? Again, I think building on something that Lennert said, I call it the Netflixification or the Ozonification of people's expectations. So I actually think it's not being driven by guests or residents or owners. It's being driven by trends, macro trends. You know, everybody expects instancy. Everybody expects control. And if for some reason you're not able to, you know, to do that, you know, I don't think the guests are demanding more tech, but they do want the experience to improve. And again, I think Lennert said it very well. I mean, I say to clients every day, you know, technology follows a process, and it's a process that's important, not the technology. You know, use the technology where it's needed. But all of that said, I don't think I've ever heard an operator who said, you know, I really want to make sure that I get 50 meg Wi-Fi for free for all of my customers, just so they have a better experience. So I think there's some sort of you know, macro trends which, you know, nobody's particularly, you know, saying that they want it, but it seems to be this constant train of, you know, being updated. So if you think about the fact that, you know, guests will refresh their phones probably every 2 years, then with that refresh comes, you know, a potential technology change that needs to happen in your organization. So, you know, unfortunately, we're on that, you know, we're on that constant renewal cycle.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Giles, on the PMS side, is it the owners or the operators who are driving things?
So, you know, I think the operators have the challenge of making the margin between what they need to pay the investors and obviously what they can sell to guests and to deliver the guests as good as an experience as possible. So the operators are hugely focused on efficiency, being able to manage a really good guest experience, as we sort of touched on so far, to be able to check guests in. And I think my belief is that you need to take the administration out of people and let the technology do the administration, so that people can actually look after the needs and wants and providing the hospitality to the residents. And so you take co-living as an example, it's very much about community, and so you want to create a community where people will enjoy being in the building. That's happening increasingly in build to rent as well, where you actually want to create spaces where people can live, work and play. And so actually providing all of the things that we've talked about with Philip's platform, sort of allow you to understand your cleaning, do your washing, through to kiosks, through to actually having the ability to report maintenance or to download your bill or pay your bills on your phone. That's all very positive for the guests and for the operators. But I think what we're also seeing is a massive increase in operators working very closely with owners to make that possible. So, you know, a well-designed building where the technology that's in the building can manage costs, can allow the personalization, and you know, the fact we're backed today by Ruckus, providing good internet, as Jim mentioned, is now more important than having a hot shower. It used to be have a hot shower and everyone's happy, comfortable bed, everyone's happy. It's now internet's absolutely key. You know, they're hygiene points now, and I think actually as people travel more, you know, what we're seeing is a lot of people are planning to travel, obviously quite a lot short term, but also longer term with business. So you may be staying in a city for 3, 6, 12 months, but then moving to another city for 3, 6, 12 months. And so you want to have technology which allows you to move and carry on enjoying life in your new location as you were in your last location as well. So just having that, taking your personalization with you within a brand where they're distributed, or between different brands for technology to facilitate that, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. You mentioned one of the motivations behind adopting new technology is cost saving. Let's talk about sustainability for a minute and how technology can make a building more efficient and therefore more sustainable. And Stuart, I'd quite like to kick off with you on this one, because your property is, you know, you pride yourself on sustainability. What tech measures did you take to make those buildings more efficient?
It started right at the very beginning, at the design stage. In one with the building orientation, we made sure it faced south or southeast. And then we looked at the fabric of the building and we made it super insulated. We used triple glazing. So we made the building airtight, and we involved mechanical ventilation, heat recovery. Basically, we followed what they call passive house principles, which is a very low energy design method for buildings. Not really seen much in commercial buildings like that, but we felt we were taking that approach would make the most sense, because we knew we were going to operate the building. And then by combining those together, we also installed solar PV on the roof, which we connected directly to the big water cylinders in the building. It's on a district water heating system. And rather than exporting that energy to the grid, we actually use it for all the electricity for the building, and any surplus heats the water. So it's like a big battery. And then beyond that, it was just down to the controls. There's some backup gas boilers, which are all managed online. And the same with the heating systems in each room, we're controlling from some desktop software or an app. So they're all connected to the internet. And we just tried to connect everything so we can manage it all remotely. I mean, I'm 550 miles away from the property, and I manage it all on my phone quite comfortably over 10 different apps. So we've seen a real benefit in the energy bills with our gas and electricity are very, very low for that size of building, you know, after 18 months. So I think the payback ultimately will be quite quick, because it was easier to design in from the start than to try and retrofit at a later date. Yeah.
And Lennert, you've got a bigger estate, but a lot of it is new build. But in the back end, is there software available to help you manage the buildings more efficiently in terms of energy use?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's software across the board to manage. We're very centrally organized, so we don't have a lot of, we have some smart hand capabilities in the cities, but yeah, we manage everything from our support offices, and also for energy, we still have bigger plans, but everything is Internet of Things in Citizenm as of our first hotel, and we're continuing to do that so that we can have front-end benefits.
Okay, thanks, Lennert. Stuart, you mentioned integration earlier, and you also mentioned that you need to use 10 apps to control the building, even though you can do it from a long way away. How is the landscape improving in terms of lots of different systems talking to each other? I know perhaps with an apart hotel, you know, a smaller property with limited guest interaction, it's slightly easier. But are things improving? Have you seen things getting better?
No, I still think there's a big gap there. I mean, we're using, you know, lots of different systems, and there's not. I wish there was just one platform that had integrations to all the different systems we're using, and we could manage it all on one on one dashboard. Excuse me. That would be ideal. I do know of some companies that have come along, have approached us. They're still very much in the early stages, and they're trying to kind of integrate everything together. But I'm not that familiar with too many that would do everything that we wanted to do. Sure, if we paid some developers, we've got APIs from them all, we could create it ourselves, but obviously that's quite a costly exercise. So I do hope we will see more platforms come along will allow that whole overall building management for our, you know, for the sectors that we're in. Yeah.
Giles, obviously a PMS you could describe as the engine room of an operation, and you're the hub that everything else needs to plug into. So what's your take on how integration is improving?
I think it's absolutely essential. I think as Stuart sort of highlighting, technology is an ecosystem, and you can get really good bits of technology for different areas of your business. And actually, a lot of the technology now is being designed with open APIs or good integration paths, which traditionally may have been quite difficult. I mean, as a PMS, we bring together an awful lot of elements of that. So we'll bring together finance systems, we'll bring together access control, we'll bring together energy, guest experience, bookings, understanding who the guests are. So, before they arrive, the sort of identification and KYC, so to reduce your fraud. And I think it's the central role of a sort of PMS or a platform like PMS to bring that all together into one system. We've covered sort of sales, operations, finance, and all the sort of building management piece, both your day-to-day management of your guests and looking after them, this day-to-day management of your finances, and then and all of the elements, so that you do get one dashboard and one operating platform to free your team up to manage the property and to provide a really good service to guests. But to be able to do things such as management by exception, when you're running properties at scale, you really just want the dashboard or the system to hold its hand up and say, hey, look, this needs your attention here. And so actually bringing together data and the processes is essential. Certainly something we're focused on. We've done a lot of integrations with a lot of great companies across, all of the different areas, going to revenue management as well, to give you sort of understanding pricing and demand, and allowing you to distribute more, but then ensuring that service that you're offering through the brand is delivered well and efficiently. That to me is the key. And what we've tried to do at Harmonics is to bring all the elements together in a hub so that you can report on it and you can understand it. And we've built some very good areas out, but where there's very specialist platforms like Access, like WeWash and so forth, we integrate with them. And you take things such as revenue management, which is incredibly complicated. And you take ideas, revenue management, you've got 80 PhD graduates in Marlow. They spend all day, every day working out how to price well. That's a great thing for us to integrate with as well. So I believe technology should be open, but you do need a dashboard or a front end to that. And Lennert mentioned some of the business intelligence tools earlier. They're really essential as well for you to sort of be able to get a view on your business. And because every business is different, you can then build your own KPIs and have that information flow into it. And again, one of the nice things about being sort of PMS is that we try and align with people's business processes so that they can understand and grow their business without hundreds of spreadsheets. To Jim's point at the beginning, I think spreadsheets is one of the worst tools and best tools that was ever created. because you can do anything on a spreadsheet, but you can't do anything on a spreadsheet well. You want it to flow together. And sometimes they're a real barrier to efficiency and process and understanding.
Yeah. Thanks, Giles. Jim, I'll come to you in a second. I just want to move on to Philip briefly. So, Philip, as a supplier of very specific technology, how is the experience from your end integrating with everything else that's going on in a building?
Well, I think that especially during the last year, there has been really a frog leap in terms of how much easier integration has become. Yeah. So, like Giles mentioned, so what happened on the PMS side really made it more and more easy for us to integrate. Having said that, we also see that customer demands that they want to basically build their own app, because what they are still missing often is that the combination between the PMS and really the user or guest app. And I think this is a really nice area to be in, Giles. So having that combination is really a cool area. And there is a lot of potential, because then you also can draw efficiencies between different use cases. And that is really when you gain benefits also in terms of sustainability.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Philip. Jim, I'm guessing integration is a key issue across pretty much every sector that uses numerous technologies, but it is, it's clearly a big one for hospitality and real estate. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that technology has not been something that's been used strategically in hospitality over the years. And the reason that Giles and other people, create software companies is because they solve a problem. I think with the integration piece, there isn't a problem big enough yet for someone to solve it. Because as you say, people say, I'll go for an RMS, or I'll go for a staff rotoring system, or I'll go for an analytics system. And things like IoT and all the stuff that would actually enrich the picture, it's not ubiquitously used enough yet for it to be a big enough problem for someone to invest the cash and make it happen. Now, there's, in our experience, there's always a tipping point, and it's something around between 10 and 16%. But if 10 to 16% of the market do something, it becomes the thing, and then all of a sudden everybody starts doing it. So I think as soon as you get to that tipping point in the market where 10 to 16% of people are either going to be, significantly using IoT, doing frictionless check-in, etc., that will then create the demand pool where Giles and Co will say, right, okay, we've already got the APIs. Do we actually step out further and create an integration platform, or does an entrant come in and say, right, well, I'm going to take Res Harmonics, I'm going to take WeWash, I'm going to take Stuart's locks, I'm going to make it all work together in one nice way, because they'll then earn money out of it. I think that's the challenge that we face today.
I tell you, the other challenge, which is really interesting with that, Jim, is that there's such a lot of technology out there that what we're trying to do is to find really good operators that have their doors open, so that we can actually link them together into a platform. There are some of these integration platforms where actually there are so many choices, you almost have to go through a process of experimentation to get the right ones. What we're trying to do is to sort of work with clients and with technology providers to say, actually, that works really, really well in co-living, that works really, really well in service departments, that works really, really well in BTR. Our focus is in hotels. And I think that's a critical sort of difference to, some other platforms that, the traditional hotel PMS, where we talked to some technology companies and we said, yeah, we love what you do, but we're not getting a lot of need for that in service departments, or what we call in innovative living, the sort of actively managed residential world. But what we are doing is, we've had great conversations with Philip and Stuart, and we're integrating with them because they are absolutely great providers in this space. And we're doing that with lots of other great providers to provide a suite where you can come to Res Harmonics and hopefully say, okay, I'm running this type of operation. Can you suggest some providers that are good? And hopefully we say, yes, we're already integrated with them, or we're integrating. Because actually there is still a huge piece around consultancy, which obviously your business is key to, where you can say what's strategically important to make your business work and then actually align the technologies around it. We're trying to short step some of that for a more of a niche, the innovative living piece, and hopefully it's growing rapidly as a result, and integrating. We're integrating with some great companies to do so as well.
Thanks, Giles. Lennert, I wanted to talk about distribution and pricing and so on. Have there been technological advances which can make operators, and I'm thinking perhaps of AI and machine learning and the like here, less dependent on others to distribute their inventory and more able to do it themselves, more direct booking? Are you seeing any advances in that area?
I wouldn't say on the system side. I mean, and maybe also to comment on the previous conversation a little bit, I think one of the problems in the hospitality industry is that we're taking tech for tech too serious. There was also a comment in the chat earlier, which is very typical in the hotel industry, is that there should be a separation between hotel operations and technology, but what is really missing here is a marketing function, right? And I think technology, and that's what Jim also said, is driven by macro level, type of trends. And a marketeer will spot those. And then it's no longer about, yeah, I have a piece of technology and let's do some tech for tech stuff that is really geeky, but nobody's really interested in it. But let's really look at what people want and expect, and let's get that done. But how to translate that into direct bookings? I think direct bookings is a strategy, and each company needs to decide for themselves if it is important. I think it's about cost of distribution. I do believe in at least in our company, where we have let's say we're on a global mission. We're going to put more hotels in more cities, and we want to have a more meaningful relationship with a certain traveler, people that travel through those destinations. So if direct booking, I would say, is a sub KPI of customer lifetime value. And yeah, how they book in the end, if somebody comes to me every week and they keep booking through booking.com and they're willing to pay the price that I'm setting, then yeah, am I even more happy if they come direct? Yeah, maybe, but I'm more interested in the fact that they actually choose to come to Citizenm every week. And I think that is our strategy. And I think for every company, with its own footprint and its own goals, you can apply your own strategy and decide what's important for you. I mean, if I would have a single hotel somewhere in the city center of Frankfurt, I might have a complete different take on distribution cost and distribution partners and the landscape and the decisions I have to make. And so I think it's never a cookie cutter play. You should really look at what's my business. What do I really need? Where am I situated? Do I have a lot of repeat travel? And what can I do? What can I do about it? But I've also, I think I've gone past the stage of really being interested in the technology side behind it. For me, it's like water coming out of the tap, right? So yeah, organizing distribution, revenue management, pricing, algorithms. Yeah, I expect to work with a revenue management system that is making that better every day. But I'm not in the business of doing that. I'm in the business of using it.
Yeah. Okay. Stuart, did you want to pick up on that one?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I thought I saw you wave your hand. Sorry.
No, I didn't. No, sorry. No, I've not much to say on that one at the moment. So.
Okay. Let's move on to some Q&A then, because we've got some questions coming in now. We've got a question here from Graham Hardiman, who says, when will the IoT data points actually come to reality in use? For example, public toilets cleaned and serviced every hour, regardless of usage. with IoT, the servicing should perhaps be 3 times per hour or not touched for 4 hours because of usage. Jim, where do you think we're at with becoming that efficient and that kind of prompted by actual usage patterns?
So, well, there's a few things there. One is the level of investment. So first of all, you've got to invest in the devices. Excuse me. Put one in every store. Then you've got to have really good connectivity, be that wired or Wi-Fi, which again attracts investment. You then offset that against the labour saving. I think things have slightly changed now, where there's something else that's come into play, which is a hygiene sort of benefit. But I think there's a level of investment, and then there's also, how does that then actuate into somebody to do something? So unless they've got a digital device that is switched on, connected at all times, like a smartwatch or something else, say, now go and do stall 3, or in some way to be able to pull down tasks off a list that you can either be suggested based on the location of the person and the device to what it is that needs cleaning. I think, you know, there's a lot of that stuff that needs to be resolved. And it sort of picks up on Graham's other question that you put in the chat, which is around service model. So you said about, you know, the luxury hospitality sector and technology processors. So unless every actor in the service model knows exactly what the service model is and what the next step is, then technology is not the answer. There's too much variability in that. So it's, you know, I'm a massive fan of technology, but it doesn't solve every problem. And until either the cost of IoT devices or we get wide-ranging adoption of what I call real-time operations management software, which is where people have task lists that they can then draw down and go and action, I think that's what's going to get in the way of that, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Lennert, do you want to?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting what Jim is saying, and also from, let's say, a business perspective, I would like to add to that. I think it's a great user story in this case. I would, but it's also a typical one that I've also seen in other hospitality organizations that kind of sit between operations and technology, because operations expect certain things, but is not able to articulate them. And if you look at software development, it starts with a user story. It needs, you know, as a person responsible for cleaning, I would like to more efficiently clean my area, right? The total area, and then you break it down into epics, or that would be the total epic, and then you have different user stories, including the toilet, including the elevators, including the hallways, and then the IoT is then probably, you know, something that somebody in the tech department will suggest after reading the user story. But I've also seen a lot of, you know, hotel operators just asking tech guys, when do I get this? Well, when are you going to say what you want? Right? Because it's not about the technology. The technology is there. In today's world, there's nothing that we cannot accomplish. At Citizenm, I'll give you one example. We, and this is still what we're waiting on, but it shows you how far we went. We wanted the door to open with the app, but we didn't want the user to bother opening the app, you know, needing Wi-Fi, to click on a button, open door. We also didn't want the Bluetooth to be on. We always wanted it to work. With Android, we could program the NFC chip. So you just, whatever is on your phone, it can be completely locked. You push against the door lock and it will open. Apple has not enabled the NFC chip for hospitality. So they've enabled it for Apple Pay, for public transport, but not for hospitality. So through connections, we went to Tim Cook and we've asked them, you know, would you like to consider for this use case, if you think about all the, you know, contactless and, you know, pandemic, hospitality industry, to do this, and they're looking at it. But that shows you how far we are committed to make the technology barrier go away, because as part of the user story, it said it needs to open the door like you walk to your Tesla and open your door handle, and anything less we're not accepting. And I think that's really interesting. We live in a world where everything is possible. Just be very specific around your user stories, and then work together with your technology partners or with your technology team to define what is, you know, the definition of done.
Mm-hmm. Lennert, while we're on the subject of Apple, let's talk about the optimum way to provide what a guest needs when he's in his or her room. I mean, around about 10 years ago, a lot of hotels spent an awful lot of money on putting technology in rooms which A, was difficult to understand and to use, and B, became obsolete fairly quickly. So when a guest walks into their Citizenm room, can they control everything from their phone? Is it all about software? As you know, is it about cloud-based systems now? You provide them with the ability to stream their own content. And what about the room controls, the heating, the windows, the curtains, that kind of stuff? Which, you know, there was a mania for having remote controls for all this kind of stuff. Have we gone beyond that now?
Well, we certainly have. Everything that was controllable in the Citizenm room with iPads is now controllable on your own Android or iPhone device. And yeah, we're also making, you know, I'd say quick progress on the Netflix versus Apple problem on streaming. We've had Apple TV in most of the, or Miracast in most of our, well, actually all of our rooms. But then, you know, Netflix and Apple got into a fight, so you cannot stream from Netflix to, you know, Apple TV anymore. And we're fixing that through our app, actually. So, you know, you connect it once, and then for all Citizenms, you can just stream your own content through the app directly to the TV without doing anything, without doing anything extra. And that's kind of unique in a hospitality sphere. But everything that you can think about: room temperature, window treatment, the color of the room, but also housekeeping settings. Would you like your room clean, yes or no? Mm-hmm. And you know, also there we are, you know, on this housekeeping digitization track. It's almost like Uber. I know when my taxi gets there. I would like to know when my room gets cleaned, and you know, what's the status. You know, that's how we're looking at the in-room side. Everything should be possible through the phone, but it should be intuitive, and we're not going to force people to do things they don't want. There's still an iPad for those that don't want to use their own phone. But for the people that do want to use it, yeah, it's pretty intuitive, and people love it so far.
Do you think you'd get a pushback from guests if there wasn't an option for them to open the curtains or switch the light on electronically, if they actually literally had to physically do it?
Well, we've had that since 2008, and so there was never a cord, right? There's always been electronically. So if it doesn't work, you get pushback, but you have to make sure it works. And that's why you have to monitor your rooms 24/7 centrally. You have to have, like the Internet of Things has to be there. So if a room stops functioning, either the iPad is drained, yeah, we get a alert. So if this, then that functionality. And we will go into a room and put an iPad back on its cradle to make sure it's charged for when you get back into the room to use it. So you want to take frustrations away, but you have to be bold enough to go for something like that. Uber also doesn't work if you don't download the app.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a question here from Catherine Murphy, who's asking, how do you see voice technologies being adopted? Jim, would you like to kick off with that one?
Yeah, so voice is rising as a channel. I think something like 50% of all searches on Google or via some mechanism are done by voice. My personal view on what I've seen, people feel comfortable to use voice for some things. They don't feel comfortable to use voice for others. I think there's also potentially some security and privacy concerns around that. I think in terms of in-room activities, I think that's fairly, accepted. Open the curtains, close the lights, whatever. But yeah, again, going back to what I was saying about the 10 to 16% piece, and until it becomes a thing, it's not a thing. And it's almost, people will look around and go, oh, I went to a hotel where I could do everything with my voice. Right, that's now reset my expectation. I can do it elsewhere. Like equally in Lennert's properties, I spoke to a hotel company probably 2-3 years ago. We were working on a fully sort of automated or remote controlled room, which never came off. And that's because people weren't asking for it. So I think it's, with most technologies, I think it's when it finds its use case, going back to what Lennert was saying, and that use case works, incontrovertibly 100% of the time, and it's useful and it's additive, that's when the demand will come, and that's when it'll start to take off.
Yeah, it comes down to solving pain. All of these things is you only really solve problems when there's pain. So, you know, a lot of the stuff we've just talked about around driving down cost is pain. The frustrations of checking in is pain. You know, the frustrations of turning up, not being able to watch what you want on the telly or you know, be entertained is pain. But, you know, we're also, the thing about phones is that nearly everybody has one now. And so actually, if you can bring your own, it brings your personalization into it. So if you've chosen an Android phone, it's because you like the Android phone, you like that world, and you like how it looks and feels and so forth. You're actually very comfortable using that as a way to interact with the things around you. You know, I don't know what everyone else is like, but I do an awful lot on my phone now, to the extent that, you know, you find yourself booking travel tickets, living life, reading news and everything on the phone, that it's just become such a natural interface with technology around you. And so I don't see voice particularly becoming a priority. I think I may be wrong, but I think, you know, there's lots of other bits of pain that need to be solved first. And as Lennert was pointing out earlier, it's all about strategy. You know, technology, you should have your strategy in the middle and then the technology around the outside like an onion in layers from there. It should all be led by business, which is led by clients, which is led by, you know, the demand and the market that you're caring about. And it all then comes back to great design and good information and easy process. So yeah, I don't know if I personally hate Alexa. My daughter has Alexa and she'll be shouting at it regularly. And I just wish we never got an Alexa. So I don't know, we'll see where voice goes. But yeah, it's interesting.
Thanks, Giles. We are nearly out of time, unfortunately, but I'd just like to finish by asking each of you in turn what you think will be the next big technological development. And you can answer either in general across hospitality and real estate, or you can answer something specific to your field. Philip, would you like to start?
Well, for me, it is really about still, I mean, it's a buzzword, but big data. I mean, so much data is collected, and in my opinion, too little is made out of it for various reasons. But making more of the data that is actually available today, both for economic reasons as well as for environmental reasons, will be key.
Thank you. Stuart.
Well, I'd really come at it from the SmartLock side, and I think where I see the big future was a bit in what Lennert was talking about, and it's kind of almost invisible SmartLock solutions where you don't see the hardware on the door, and it's more invisible, whether it's using NFC. And I really was interested to hear about his, you know, trying to get Apple to release the NFC format, because that's a big sticking block in the access control market. So yeah, it's all about just making everything invisible and seamless.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. Jim.
5G. I think the possibilities available with 5G will force people to think about how they write software, and you know, the richness of experience that you'll be able to get with ubiquitous 5G. You know, so viewings in AR, VR, also the richness of content. You know, particularly if you're selling a luxury product, you won't be constrained by, you know, the current versions of HTML and stuff like that. So 5G, you know, and also massive cost saving for operators as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Giles.
A bit like Philip, it's data, but it's actually what you do with data. So there's a lot of stuff coming through, and it's a buzzword, but it's really, really coming at pace, which is sort of artificial intelligence, being able to make recommendations to guests so that they get a better choice of what they're being offered, helping operators to know what needs attention in the portfolio, to centralized help desks where they're getting lots and lots and lots of messages using things such as semantic analysis, which is just using the machine learning to say, this person's cross, you need to get in touch with them quickly, really urgent, and bring them back on side, versus you know, something that doesn't necessarily need your attention. When you're doing stuff at scale, technology needs to remove that admin and to highlight what needs your attention. And I think that whole artificial intelligence and machine learning and semantic analysis has got an awful lot of legs in it to deliver a better guest experience and a better operator bottom line.
Thanks, Giles. And finally, over to you, Lennert.
I think I cannot disagree with anything that has been said, but if you look at hospitality, I hope that customer data platforms become a little bit more prominent. So we focus less on the transactions and more on the people, and then combine that with the invisible technology bit. We shouldn't bother too much about how it works, but we should be bothered about the appliance, how are we going to apply it to the customer experiences that we each design in our own businesses. So I hope it's going to be a little bit more seamless and you know, more invisible, so marketeers can take a crack at it as well in the hospitality industry.
Thanks, Lennert, and thank you all for a fascinating discussion. I'm just going to very quickly show a couple of slides before we sign off. So here are the next topics for this webinar series, and you'll be able to see a link in the chat if you want to register to attend any of these. The Urban Living Festival, as I mentioned earlier, is taking place in London on July the 7th and the 8th. These are all our fantastic sponsors and media partners. If you'd like to find out more, to get involved, then please do contact my colleague Katie, whose details are there and also in the chat. We're across all the social channels, so please follow us there, join the conversation and interact with us. And finally, thanks very much to CommScope for sponsoring the session today. Thanks to Harmonics for sponsoring the series. Thanks to Stuart, to Jim, to Lennert, to Philip and to Giles. Hopefully see you in London in July, or if not, on a webinar before that. Thanks very much, everybody.
Jim.